Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be my update for my 2 weeks of one palette. And before we even get into that video, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, which is that I'm in a totally different space, totally different background. And that is just because I now have a vanity. I'm sitting at my vanity right now. I now have a place where I can actually sit and do my makeup and film my videos. And I just love it so much. Like, it's my own little space. Obviously my room is my own space, but this right here is my own little makeup space. And I'm so happy that I finally just went ahead and invested in one. Don't even ask me why it took me so long to actually get like a little vanity desk, but I finally got one and I love it so much. I think it's so cute. And yeah, I'm just so happy with it. If you guys follow me on Snapchat and Instagram, then you would have already seen it. But I guess for those of you who don't follow me on Snapchat and Instagram, this is your only means of seeing me. I can show y'all what it looks like. I just did my makeup though, so it is messy already, but I guess I can show y'all what it looks like. So excuse the mess, but so this is my little stool. This is my actual vanity area. So this is like a glass tabletop, and then I just got my makeup acrylic organizers and my brushes. I got everything set up how I like it, how I want it, and that's everything. Like, this is my little vanity area. So I'm actually still trying to figure out the best place to put my camera when I'm filming, but you know, I think right here is okay. I'll be able to work it out okay. But you guys are here to hear about my 2 weeks one palette, so let's talk about that. So my 2 weeks one palette was the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Original Eyeshadow Palette, and I was not mad when this got picked because, you know what? I actually need to use it right quick because I forgot to do my inner corner. Like, how did I forget that? Okay, I'm back. I just had to use one of the shades really quick because I totally forgot to do my inner corner highlight. But yeah, so this is what the palette looks like. You guys have seen this a lot on YouTube. It was hyped up when it first came out because of the textured eyeshadows at the top. Everybody was curious to, you know, see what the hype was with these, you know, different formula of eyeshadows. And I kind of got this palette late to the bandwagon. Like, I was really late to the bandwagon with this palette. I got it after I got the Desert Dusk eyeshadow palette because I was so obsessed with the Desert Dusk. I was like, yeah, I need to go ahead and pick up her original Rose Gold palette and see if it is just as good. So I'm going to take you guys through all of the shades. I'm going to show you some looks that I did with the palette. And then I'm also going to talk to you guys a little bit about how I've been feeling about my 2 weeks one palette since I've been doing it. By the way, if you haven't seen all of my videos, I will go ahead and link a playlist for you guys to go and see the beginning of this series that I started all the way up until now. So let's go through all of the shades. Dubai I did not use in this 2 weeks. I just didn't use it at all, mainly because when I first got this palette, Dubai was one of the shades that I really used a lot because mostly everybody was doing like rose gold looks, and so I wanted to be different and I wanted to use something else. So I used Dubai a lot when I first got this palette, and so I just did not feel like using it this time around. And plus, I've been into more spring type of colors, so Dubai just wasn't it for me, so I didn't use it at all. Fling I actually only used one time, and that was one of the colors that I actually wanted to focus on, but I only used it one time. But it was nice when I did use it. It's one of the more softer, finely milled textured eyeshadows. Like, it's not as chunky as these other ones. So this one applies really, really nice and really, really smooth. You can apply this one with your finger or with a brush. And as you guys can see, it's not as chunky as those other ones. It really glides on nice and smooth, and it's super pigmented. So Fling is actually a really, really nice shade. 24K I actually dug into a lot. I mostly used it on the inner corner of my eye because I've been loving that really, really yellow gold pop on the inner corner of my eye. So that is what I use 24K. I think I used 24 karat on the inner corner of my eye for every look that I did with this palette. It's just a really, really nice yellow gold type of shade. It's really, really pretty, and it's also really pretty over the lid as well. ColourPop came out with their spring collection, and one of their Jelly Much eyeshadows is very similar to this color, and I've seen people doing looks with that on their lid, and I was like, I could use 24K all over my lid to create like the same type of look. So I might do that even though I'm done using this palette. I might go ahead and pull it out just to do that type of look. Rose gold I definitely use. It's super pretty, but rose gold is one of the more difficult textured shadows. It's one of the more chunky ones, one of the ones that you have to really have patience with and work with when you put it on your lid. You have to use your fingers, because using a brush, it will not smooth out over your lid how you want it to. It is very, very chunky. I'll show you guys a swatch. It is very, very chunky, and even if you use a glitter glue or a mixing medium or something, you're still gonna have to apply this with your finger to be able to smooth it and pat it out the best way possible. So I really, really like that shade. Even though it's a little bit more difficult to work with, it's a really pretty shade on the lid. I can understand why everybody was doing looks with that color when they first got this palette, because it is a really pretty rose gold eyeshadow. And then Trust Fund is another color just like rose gold, very chunky in texture. That's actually what I have on my lids today. I definitely use my finger to apply it. It is very, very chunky. These two are identical to each other as far as texture and formula goes. They are very, very chunky, but once they're on the lid, they are super beautiful. Angelic, I did not use this shade at all, just because I have this shade in the Desert Dust palette. It's a repeat shade, and so I just did not feel the need to use it. I mean, I just didn't want to use it, you guys, so I didn't use it. Blessed, I used this shade to do a bronzy type of summertime look. I used it in conjunction with my Morphe 35G eyeshadow palette, which I have honestly been loving. Like, I know everybody is hating on that palette, but I've actually really been enjoying it so much that it's probably going to be in my favorites video, because I've really been enjoying that palette. But I did a look with this shade and the 35G, and it was really, really pretty, bronzy, nice type of eyeshadow look. I used Bossy one time. This is more of like a mauvey, a deep mauvey purple type of shade. I used it in my outer V for a look. Flamingo, I used this in my crease for a pinky look that I'm going to show you guys. Flamingo is a really, really nice matte pink shade. You do have to build the shade up to get it to be that color on your eye, but even with building it up, it didn't go patchy or anything like that, and it was a really pretty color once you got it built up. Shy, I used this one time as just a transition color. Bay, I use this to highlight my brow bone every time I use this palette. It's one of those yellowy type of bone cream shades, so it's perfect for me highlighting my brow bone, because that's the type of color that I like to highlight my brow bone. Moon Dust, I actually did not use this. Moon Dust is typically the shade that I would use to highlight my inner corner when I use this palette, but because I was using 24K for that, I had no use for Moon Dust, so I did not use it at all. Black Truffle, I did not use at all, even though I wanted to do a bronzy look with the 35G palette, and then use this black. Even though the 35G has a black eyeshadow in it, I wanted to use it out of this palette since this is my focus, but I never got around to that. Suede is a color that I do not use at all. I feel like it is a very unnecessary shade in this palette. I don't like, it's a cool tone gray eyeshadow. I don't use those type of eyeshadows, so I just never ever touch that shade. Cocoa is a really nice brown color for deepening out the outer V. Man Eater, I love this to warm up my crease and give it a more reddish type of look. Henna and Sandalwood were both my transition and crease colors. I use Sandalwood a lot. I put a nice little dip in Sandalwood because it was basically my transition color for all of the looks that I did, and it was really, really nice. And Henna is really, really nice as a starter transition color as well. So overall, I had fun using this palette for 2 weeks. I really like the looks that I came up with using this palette, and then using it in conjunction with other palettes, I feel like it was really nice. Like today, I used it in conjunction with my ColourPop eyeshadow singles from out of this palette, and then I also used my Sweet Talk palette, which I have been obsessed with. I cannot put this eyeshadow palette down for some reason. If you guys saw my favorites video, then I already talked about this, and if you saw my first impressions video that I did, I cannot I just can't. This palette is perfect. And so I basically use one shade out of this palette every time I do my makeup because it is perfect. So now I'm going to show you guys some eye looks that I did with this palette, and then we can kind of get into how I've been feeling about, no, actually we're going to pick a new palette, and then we'll get into how I've been feeling about 2 weeks one palette. So for those of you who are new, this is the app that I use. It's called Tiny Decisions for picking my palette. And so this is my wheel, and we're gonna go ahead and pick a new palette. So it chose the Clover palette. So that is from Too Faced. So I'm gonna go and get that palette and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the Too Faced Clover palette, and this was an impulse buy. This was something that I just randomly picked up because, I don't know, I literally just picked it up just because. But the good thing about this is I've never really used this palette. Like, I've never really put it to any good use. I usually just go into this palette for like one eyeshadow, and you know, I just haven't really used it. So this is, oops. So this is what the palette looks like. These are all the colors. So I definitely can get some springtime looks out of this palette. It's really colorful, and it has a lot of colors that I can actually use, you know, for the springtime. I just have to get creative with this palette, and I'm definitely going to have to pull in some eyeshadows from other palettes to create looks, but I feel like I'm going to be able to get really good looks out of this eyeshadow palette, and I am going to be able to create some really fun, nice looks using this. So this is it. So getting into how I've been feeling about 2 weeks one palette, you know, just with my randomizer picking this palette, which is a palette that I've had for a while now, like a few months, and me never really like actually using it or having used it a lot, that tells me now that this project, this series, is something that I needed to do, absolutely needed to do. Because if it was not for my little randomizer picking this palette, I probably wouldn't have touched this palette for like another 4 or 5 months, or even at all. If I wasn't looking for a specific shade, I probably would not have picked this palette up. And that's what I've really been enjoying about 2 weeks one palette, and that's why I really needed to do this, because for one, it's been picking palettes that I wouldn't have picked on my own, because I have my go-to palettes, I have my go-to eyeshadow looks that I like to do, and I stick with them. No matter how many palettes I have the ones that I always gravitate towards, I always stick to, because I know the colors in them. I know that it's easy for me to create a look. I don't really have to think too hard, and you know, that's just how a lot of us are when it comes to makeup. But because I've been having something randomly pick out a palette for me, it's been choosing palettes like this that I normally would never have picked up, or would have picked up like maybe once a year, which is quite sad. So that's my main reason why I've been enjoying 2 weeks one palette, because I need to get use out of the makeup that I have spent my money on, and I don't just need to be letting them sit there and collect dust. The second reason why I've really been enjoying doing 2 weeks one palette, and why I feel like I need to do this, is because it's been forcing me to be a lot more creative. So it's been forcing me to dip into multiple palettes to create certain looks. So instead of me trying to create an entire look out of one palette and getting frustrated and probably not really caring for the look that I come up with because I'm only trying to use this one palette, I've been like going through my entire collection, pulling different palettes, like, okay, I can use this shade with this shade, or I can match this shade with this shade, and it's been allowing me to use different shades, different shade combinations, put together like new things that I normally wouldn't have thought of, because again, I only reach for my go-to palettes that I know I can create one look out of. So that is another reason why I've been liking it, because it's been allowing me to get a little bit more creative. And even if I do come up with some of the same looks that I normally do, it's allowing me to use eyeshadows that I normally wouldn't have. Another thing that I've been doing to create looks, so if I have a palette that is monochromatic, so all the looks that I do with that palette kind of look the same, or if I have a smaller palette that doesn't have like a wide range of colors and it's very limited to what I can do with it, I've been pulling either my single eyeshadows or my Stila Glitter and Glow eyeshadows or some type of pigment or glitter. I've been pulling something from somewhere else, my single eyeshadow collection, ColourPop, Super Shock Shadows. I have been pulling something to go with that palette. So not only am I getting use out of my eyeshadow palettes, I'm also getting use out of my eyeshadow singles, which is something that I wasn't getting use out of at all. My ColourPop Super Shock Shadows had just gone by the wayside. My Stila Glitter and Glow eyeshadows were just going by the wayside. My glitters and pigments, like everything was just not getting used because I was just using the same thing over and over. But now, since I've been trying to find different color combinations and different eyeshadow combinations, I've actually been pulling from my single eyeshadows as well. So everything is getting used, and like I couldn't be more happy about the fact that I'm actually using my makeup. Everything is getting used. Well, not everything, obviously, because I haven't gone through everything. But if I keep doing this every 2 weeks, everything will get used. And I was looking at my entire option list on my little randomizer, and I think it said I have, I'm not gonna give y'all the exact number, but I have like over 100 palettes. That's, I don't want to say that out loud because that is just scary, but I have over 100 now. And we all know there's not that many weeks in a year. I think there's like 52 or 53 weeks in a year. And the fact that I am doing this every 2 weeks cuts that in half. So obviously I'm not going to be able to get around to all of my palettes within 1 year. But that is the reason for me to pull other palettes in and use other palettes. So say for instance, with the Too Faced Clover palette, let's say I pull in my Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette to pair with this, and I use those together. I'm getting use out of another palette in my collection while I'm using the one that was chosen for 2 weeks, one palette. And then if the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette just so happens to get chosen later on down the line, I'll pair that one with another palette from my collection so that I'm getting use out of another palette, you know, just so that I am getting use out of all of my eyeshadow palettes, because obviously I won't be able to use all 100 in a year's time frame. You get what I'm saying? So I don't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to let you guys know how I've been feeling about 2 weeks, one palette, how excited I am about my new palette for the next 2 weeks. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, you already know, give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button so that you're notified every single time I upload a video. And oh yeah, leave me a comment down below, of course, and then I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.